Yeah, we're back. Courts of Thunder, Roland Garros preview edition. He's Greg Rosenthal. I'm Glenn Clark. It's good to see you again, my friends.
It is great to see you. The music, you playing it a little longer, has me hyped. This French Open has me hyped. I got to admit, usually not like my favorite of the Grand Slams. I think I'm more excited for this French Open than any French Open for a while.
Well, we can just acknowledge what's going on, because I feel the exact same way as you do, but it's because something's happening. It's because there's a genuine moment that's occurring within the sport that we feel like is coinciding with this year's French Open. And I think that's where like my vigor is like, I would be excited.
It's 2 moments. It's 2 moments though. I mean, I'm a, Iga's streak to me is as big a moment as Alcaraz for me. I'm so excited to see that, because I think her, those two together is what is special to me.
I understand what you're saying. I do. But that Palabados is winning the French Open, so why does that matter? I'm kidding, of course. Well, I don't know if I'm kidding.
But that would be quite a story. Too. What a story! But no, I know, Glenn. Before we start, sometimes we start with the women, sometimes we start with the men. And Glenn, whenever he wants to start with the men, is very like apologetically asking me before the show. I think we should start with the men. It's okay. It's okay. The dudes are pretty interesting this time around. We'll do them both. We'll do them both.
Let's get to it.
Courts of Thunder.
We've got the draws for the French Open, and we're going to go through them. Just briefly, for those that maybe missed our 2 episodes that we did during the American stretch, during the Indian Wells Miami stretch, can we refresh for the audience that's back now, because it's the French Open, as to why it is that the Carlos Alcaraz moment is so significant and is so different than other players that have come along in recent years?
Because we have eyes. Because
I'm good with that.
Like, you can see it, and more than any player that's come up since the big 3, you can just see it. And you know what? We're in a much different place than we were when we left off in Miami. I mean, because Alcaraz just won. He just won Madrid by beating Nadal and Djokovic in a row. He just won Barcelona, which is one of the biggest and best 500 level tournaments out there, including a win over Tsitsipas. So he's built. He came out of Miami being a bigger deal than he's ever been before, and he's only built on it to the point where Nadal and Djokovic are all saying and Zverev saying this is the best player in the world, and these guys are trying to say that it's a favorite. I see what you're doing, guys, trying to put all that pressure on him.
Yeah, okay, but let's be honest about it. He is the best player in the world. Whether he should be the favorite or not, I kind of agree that until you've won a 5-set Grand Slam tournament, I don't think you can declare someone the favorite to win one. But I don't think we should try to mix words about this. I've been saying it for some time. Carlos Alcaraz is definitively the best tennis player in the world at the moment.
Wow. The way Djokovic came. No, I'm with you. But the way Djokovic came through Rome, my feeling in general is that Djokovic is always the best player in the world until proven otherwise. And him struggling while he comes off what was essentially a 4-month layoff because of his decision not to get a vaccine and everything. That doesn't bother me when it ends with a Rome title at the end. So to me, they are very much right there, and Nadal and Roland Garros is right there, and that's why this men's tournament is so interesting, that you really have 3 co-favorites. To me, they're on roughly even playing field, and push comes to shove, I actually still trust the old guys more to get it done.
Okay. All right.
And we're going to find out early. Let's go through it quarter by quarter.
That's why I think you're right that he should be the favorite. It's just not why I still think the answer is what it is when it comes to the best player in the world. That being said, yes, let's go through it. So Novak Djokovic is the top seed, back and playing in a Grand Slam tournament again, which alone is a major storyline coming into this. And as you point out, the last we saw of him, he reminded us that he is still Novak Djokovic, and he is still, I guess, if you want to say, the guy until proven otherwise. That being said,
he is literally the slight favorite, by the way, right now to win the tournament, plus 162, Alcaraz 175.
So let's get into it. At the top, Djokovic. And then you look down and you say, okay, there's not a lot going on here. but I'm really excited about the possibility of Jensen Brooksby in a couple of rounds.
Okay. I mean, you're kind of burying the lead here, which is that in the first quarter of the draw, there was a 1 in 4 chance that Rafael Nadal was going to be with Djokovic. And he is.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
This is stupid.
We've talked about this before. Like, this is just the way that it's gone on like this forever. And so, and you make this point all the time. Sometimes people win Grand Slams or make deep runs just because they kind of got the luck.
The draw is too big. Why can't one of these tournaments try to mix it up and just have the 1 play the 8 and the 4 play the 5? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you do in American sports, like postseason tournaments or whatever. Because what you got here is the 1 seed Djokovic being totally punished by being in the same bracket as Nadal, who's also being punished for being the highest seed 5 to 8, and Djokovic is the highest seed 1 to 4. And to be clear, they would face each other in the quarterfinals if they get there. And despite some good players in this quarter, I totally expect that to happen.
So let's talk about Nadal. Let's talk about what we saw in the Shapovalov match, and let's talk about his body language afterwards and how dejected he seemed after losing that match. And I'm not suggesting that means that he's wildly vulnerable coming into this, but that's the type of thing that's not supposed to happen to Rafael Nadal.
It's true. It's all about his foot. He said he's not a injured player. He doesn't have an injury. He's just a player that plays hurt now. That's just where he is at his life. Like, this foot injury isn't going anywhere was his point. And he lost a great match against Alcaraz in Madrid in his first tournament back.
Yep.
And he was right there. And towards the end of that match too, he seemed a little bit compromised in that match. Now, I took that tournament as like a good sign. He just came off 6 weeks off or whatever it was, and he steps right on the court and was right there with, as you say, the best player in the world. But then having the Rome so soon after that and him falling apart, yeah, it's got to be the biggest question Nadal's faced entering the French Open ever. I mean, when else has there's been other times where Djokovic was a favorite and Nadal had some losses. Sure. In the lead up to it, but never this physical compromise. Plus, you have Djokovic and Alcaraz who are right there with him as like co-favorites.
When he lost to Soderling, wasn't there an injury that year? Wasn't there something that was kind of, God, I might have to go back.
I thought that was clean, but certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, I think there was a 2018 run where he really didn't kill everyone up until the French Open, and Djokovic was actually a heavy favorite going into it. And you know what, Nadal just wrecked shop. But you know what, looking at Nadal's draw, he has a chance to ease his way into this tournament. He has Jordan Thompson in the first round, who actually can make him work just like a long right. points. He's got Stan Wawrinka potentially, or Mute in the second round. That would be a really fun match. Stan is back on tour, not totally at full strength here, but he did have one good win before losing to Djokovic. I think that was in Rome. So that would be fun. And then he's either got Fognini or Van de Schla, who's been playing pretty well in the third round, and potentially Felix in the fourth. And then Novak in the fifth in the quarters. And that is just an absolutely brutal draw.
It's bonkers. I mean, it's bonkers. But again, this is still Rafael Nadal. This is still Rafael Nadal in Paris. This is still Rafael Nadal on clay. And until we see someone take him out in 5 sets ahead of the Djokovic match, I am with you that I assume we're going to get there.
Felix is not playing well, by the way. No. We were enjoying his performance early in the year. He's not played well since.
I don't know if he's ever going to be a great clay court player. I don't know. You know,
I have my doubts whether he's ever going to be like a really great player. Like a steady guy. I think he could pop up and have his moments, but you're right. He doesn't seem like a clay guy. Djokovic has an easier route. He's got Brooksby potentially in the third round, as you mentioned before I cut you off rudely.
Yeah, I was trying to build, man.
I know, but I just wanted to get to the good stuff. I don't expect Brooksby to get to that match just because he really doesn't seem like a clay quarter.
Yep.
He's got Cuevas in the first round. The next round for him would be doable. He's a seed at this tournament, which is amazing. But I don't think Djokovic will break a sweat until the fourth round where he could have either Schwartzman most likely or Dimitrov. And that's where, if Djokovic isn't at his full strength, Schwartzman could certainly give him problems or even pull off a big upset. And then maybe this Nadal Djokovic, it's all unfair thing doesn't matter in the end anyways.
So we normally just go ahead and pick someone through the quarter.
Right.
But that would involve us having to go ahead and pick this hypothetical Djokovic and Nadal match. That just doesn't feel like we should be picking it, but this is the reality of it.
One thing I've learned over the years is when you can when you have the chance to pick Nadal when people are doubting him, especially in Roland Garros, just pick him.
All right. So you've got Nadal on in to the semifinals.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm going with Djokovic on to the semifinals. I'm going that way. All right, next quarter, we find Alex Zverev sitting at the top of it.
Ooh.
Yes, agreed. As always, eternally, that will never not be the correct answer whenever we bring up Alex Zverev's name. There's not a bunch of Americans in this mix. There's not a ton of significance in this quarter until you get down a little bit further. I think that if you're Alex Zverev, and this is what makes it even grosser, you've got to feel quite good about what you're looking at in a path to the semifinals.
What are you talking about?
No?
Look who's at the bottom of this.
Oh.
Keep looking. Keep looking.
Oh. This is interesting.
Now, were you happy to see Zverev and Alcaraz in the same quarter?
I mean, you know, it's funny when you say that. Yes, with the exception of it creates greater nerve for me. Like Carlos Alcaraz not winning the French Open would be a bummer of a result for me based on how much excitement I have about him, but it would be so much more crushing. Like if he loses to Tsitsipas, okay, that's one of the best clay court players in the world.
That'd be pretty disappointing, frankly.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be disappointing.
Nadal or Djokovic, I could live.
Oh, 100% those guys. But even Tsitsipas, I would say, all right, fine, right? Like I'll live. If Carlos Alcaraz loses to Zverev, I'm gonna be wrecked, bro.
Right. That's the big takeaway from today is how incredibly top heavy this tournament is. 4 of the top players in the race, which is just the points from 2022. And now we're in May here, where that's pretty significant. 4 of the top 5 in the race are in the top half, and that doesn't include Djokovic. So really, it's 5 of the 6 best players this year. Now, one of those players happens to be Fritz, who is also in this, hasn't played at all on clay. He's kind of been a no-show when he's played. He hasn't been a factor. He's got the easiest possible 2 rounds, which is either 2 qualifiers or a qualifier and American Michael Moe. So he could at least get to the 3rd round, maybe in the 4th with the draw. But there's not a lot of great players in this section other than Alcaraz and Zverev. Although one little one to circle, I think, would be Davidovich Fokina versus Zverev in the 3rd round. As Zverev haters, Davidovich Fokina is playing really well in general. I've had a chance to watch him. Another Spanish player like Alcaraz, who had a good match with Alcaraz too. And Zverev is such a choker and so bad in these 5-set matches. I could see him going out maybe early and making us happy.
There's also what do we say about Dominic Thiem? What do we say at this point? It's kind of sad, isn't it?
Right. So I feel like people that listen to this podcast are probably closer to the casual fan relatively. They're not living and dying on what's happening in Geneva this week. Dominic Thiem was the best clay courter in the world, not named Rafael Nadal, for 3 straight years. He was the heir apparent to win the French Open. He has a Grand Slam title at the US, but he also, made the French final and everything. Since he's come back from his elbow surgery, his forehand is not right, and he's lost 8 straight matches. He has not won a single match. It's tough.
It's so sad. And I'm not a Dominic Thiem fan. We've talked before, about how we almost want to give it an asterisk for his US Open win and make it so it doesn't count. We've definitely minimized it and felt like he doesn't qualify as a player who's broken through, but this is tough for me. Like, this is, even as someone who doesn't like Dominic Thiem, I'm like, I feel horrible for the guy.
Well, he's got Hugo Dellien from Bolivia, who I'm not too familiar with.
I'm not going to
first round. So that feels like at least he's got a chance to break the schneid. This is his place where he kind of broke through. the French Open. So maybe if he can just get one win under his belt, they'll feel a little better. He would have Hachinov, who's the 21st seed in the second round, who's almost collapsing about as bad as Thiem. It's one of those seeds that does not match up with where he's at. He's not a top 50 or 60 player right now. And all of that, again, kind of adds up to our boy, Alcaraz, probably cruising through until the quarterfinals. The only thing that would worry me a little bit is the second round here, Glenn. Kokkinakis or Ramos Vinolas.
I could sell,
especially Kokkinakis.
Really?
That's another one where the rankings don't match up with where he's at in the race this year. He's been playing as about a top 30 player. Big serve, you just never know. A big match player, I think.
I can't see him competing with. Carlos Alcaraz is on a different planet right now, man. Like he is just in a different world.
Could play your guy Korda in the third round, or Gasquet, who is in the semifinals this week, I think in Geneva. Might be his last French Open.
Cam Nouri is in this quarter as well, a little bit higher in there. But I hate saying I'm just going to keep thinking that everything's going to play to form, but I do see this ultimately being Alcaraz Zverev too. And look, I have fears about that, but ultimately there is no question as to which of those is the better player at this point.
I have none. Yeah. And I really think Davidovich Fokina is going to have a chance. Whatever the line is for that match.
Yeah,
I like it for Davidovich Fokina because he'll be a sizable underdog, and I think he'll have a chance.
I'd be willing that, as you know. So Greg,
I'm not allowed. I can't do it.
He's not again, but he loves reminding me.
Yeah, like we're
be like, hey, did you notice this? Did you notice what this number was?
Hey, and surprise us, Taylor Fritz. By the way, sorry.
You know, I do like reminding you. Like because everybody accused me of poo-pooing his Indian Wells win, and I did. I'm not gonna lie, I poo-pooed it, but it would be nice for him to follow that up with some sort of encouraging result.
It's this whole idea of he's not the typical American, just like big ball basher forehand and everything. All right, then win some matches on clay, because that's what Americans do, is not win matches on clay.
Go do it. I'm with you. All right, let's go to the bottom of the draw.
For the bottom of the draw, we can be quicker on. I feel like the rest of the top is so much better.
To me, the bottom of the draw, and look, you can say whatever you want. I think the bottom of the draw is Tsitsipas to be had. I think that right now, it would be almost shameful for Tsitsipas to not get back to the French Open final.
Wow. Well, because it's Tsitsipas and because tennis is hard, I wouldn't go that far. And that's more just because I don't believe in him enough as that.
It's interesting to me. Why not on clay specifically? Because I can understand it in general.
Right. And he's had a good build up. He's had it really, it feels like he is always losing big matches. And yet I think he is third in the race right now behind Nadal and Alcaraz. He is the one that made the finals of Rome against Djokovic. He beat Zverev twice, I think, on clay, and lost to him another time. So they played each other 3 different times, but he's played and won a lot of matches. I don't know. I just felt like he, in tough situations, I don't totally trust him. And I just feel like being that big of a favorite, he knows that, like, to get through, he's going to end up in a tough spot. Now, you don't see where it's going to come from for a while. Maybe Casper Ruud in the quarters could be tough. Maybe Musetti in the first round could be tough.
Yeah, tough.
But once he gets to the semis, for instance, he's going to be playing a really great player. Maybe even Ruud. Like, I could see him, as a heavy favorite against Casper Ruud, who's a really good clay quarter. Who knows? Blowing that match. It just seems like something Tsitsipas would do.
It just seems like he has been gifted with, like, the Rublevs down there, the Medvedevs down there, the guys that, like, in another tournament, I would say, yeah, I don't trust him to be able to hold up with those guys.
No, it's cake. This is why I'm annoyed by the whole. And some of it's just luck for him, because Daniel Evans is a seed, but he can't play on clay, and he's not playing well. De Minaur has never won matches on clay until this year. He's won a couple. Shapovalov is a mess. I kind of hate watching that dude right now. He plays Holger Rune in the first round. I could see Chapo losing first round, actually.
He just beat Sinner pretty comfortably. And
he's in the next quarter, but that's I think one of the big.
I think it's a huge storyline in the bottom quarter, by the way. I do. I think it's a huge storyline in the bottom quarter.
Okay, let's get to it. What is it? What's the huge storyline?
Well, I think that there. I don't. It's not. It'd be wrong to say this is a crap or get off the pot type of situation for Jannik Sinner, because we're not there, right? But
no,
it does feel like it's been a bit stagnant since he got onto the scene. And if he's going to elevate himself into a place where he can be competitive with the best players in the world, I'd like to see that sooner than later. I think there's no question he's a very good player. There's no doubt about that. But when I first saw Jannik Sinner come up, he looked to me like the type of player that could be truly special. And it's just felt a bit stagnant.
Well, I think you're like getting the Alcaraz effect here. Alcaraz is 19 and doing things 19-year-olds haven't done since.
And that's fair.
Nadal.
Right.
Sinner's 20.
I know.
Sinner's 20 and he's seated 11th at this tournament.
You talk about this a lot with this group of guys. You talk a lot about the next gen guys and how the next gen kind of passed. It just went right through to the next generation after the next gen, right?
Yes.
Like I don't.
But he's the same age as Alcaraz, essentially. You know, he's seated 11th and Alcaraz is seated 6th. And yeah, he hasn't. There's no reason to think Sinner's as good.
Yeah.
Right. There's no comparison. But someone I would compare it to in the women's draw is Coco Gauff, who you feel like probably has stagnated too. Is 19.
Feel. Yep.
And I guess I would just say he's fully on schedule to be like a top 5 Grand Slam winner type of player. Like if the bar is like, is he going to be an all-time great? I don't know if he's on that path or not. Yeah. Some people like Fed take longer to get going. Some don't. Like I feel like he's very much on that path. And to your point, this is a great opportunity
and
for
that's
him.
More
and I think
he's
playing he's playing well enough that he could take advantage of it. And I think he might be my pick to the finals just for fun, because I just have this feeling in my bones that Tsitsipas will find a way to blow it. And I don't see anyone else I really love in this quarter, especially.
Okay. Everything you just said, I'm actually good with. I'm actually good with everything you just said. And I think it would be an incredible result for Sinner to make a run to the final. What is his best win in the last couple of months? I think he got a win over Rublev, right? Like, I think he got one, but on clay, I would kind of want you to be beating Rublev at this point.
He lost to Felix in Madrid. He lost to Tsitsipas in the quarters of Rome. He lost to Zverev by 2 points in third set tiebreaker in the quarters of Monte Carlo. So he's been okay. He's been making some quarterfinals. This quarter is a mess. We should go through the biggest part of it, which is that Daniil Medvedev is the number 2 seed in this tournament. He did return to tennis this week and after a long layoff for injury, and promptly lost to Richard Gasquet.
Yes.
So, and he's never done anything at the French really. Last year he did win some matches, but he's got a good draw at least. He's got Bagnes in the first round, and either Berenkis or Jerry in the second, and then maybe Kekmanovic or Bublik, or in the third. Like that's about as good as it gets. So there's a chance he could work his way into form. But just to explain to the listeners who haven't been tracking it, like he is just coming off a layoff, not great on clay.
And I could see Carreño Busta coming through in that sort of quarter of that group of 4 above him and being the one to take him out. I could see Carreño Busta having a long run. That's
what he's got to do. Like Carreño Busta has to get these results that a year from now we'll be like, why is Carreño Busta still ranked 16? I don't remember him doing anything.
But then you go back and you remember
he'll make like a Grand Slam quarter.
100%. It's exactly what he does.
He's a vulture.
And I'm almost prepared to call him doing it again with Medvedev being the threat down there. I'm prepared for Carreño Busta to make another run in this tournament.
By the way, Richard Gasquet, who I just mentioned, I saw a list. He is 5th, I think, among current players in wins. I think almost 600 ATP wins. That dude's won a lot of matches. And we should mention Joe Wilford Tsonga playing his, maybe this would be for when he actually loses, but likely playing his last match of his career because he drew Casper Ruud in the first round. And this is going to be his last tournament. I hate when that happens, when you have the nice goodbye, like you want to see him get a little bit of a cupcake and at least get into that last match. That could be 3-3 and 2 and over quickly, but he's been, he was a fun player to watch for a long time.
Your final is Nadal Sinner? Really?
No, I think I'm going to go Alcaraz Sinner. I never said. I never said
that's true. That's true. All right, good point. By the way, I would be so juiced for an Alcaraz Sinner final. Oh my God, I can't even put into words how excited I'd be about an Alcaraz Sinner final. But
one last point on the men before we go. You cool with this? We got a few Americans up in the top of this last quarter, which is an ugly quarter. Now, granted, I just picked Sinner to the final, but Tommy Paul's in there, who actually should be able to play well in clay. Cressy's in there, Mackie McDonald. Rublev has been a mess and can't play. I'm just saying, it wouldn't surprise me if we do a mid-tournament show that like one of those guys is in the round of 16.
Okay, so, all right, I could see that opportunity. I could see that opportunity for one of them as well. All right. And by the way, I'm going to stand by. Alcaraz is winning. He's beating Tsitsipas. He's winning this tournament. This is his moment, and I might be despondent if anything else were to occur. Like the
I don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't know if I like. I picked it on this show, but I don't know if I'd put my money where my mouth is if I was allowed to. Like, I really do think that there's can't you just see Nadal winning this because everyone is like doubting that it's gonna happen.
I hear you. I hear you. I don't
kill him. You can't kill this
guy. I hear you. All right. Let's go to the other side.
Courts of Thunder.
All right, let's start by briefly just talking about. Do you have any of the statistics up in front of you for what Iga's been doing by chance?
Well, I know it's 28 straight matches. Yep. I think 27 of them have been straight sets.
It's so insane. It's just so insane.
Like, I think, there was a couple tournaments where no one took her, like Pagula took her to 5 games in one set, and that was like the closest anyone got in I forget if that was Madrid or Charleston or what, but yeah, she's having a run that ranks with the great dominant runs that any woman's had over the last 20 years. But it hasn't happened at a grand. It's been all non-grand slams.
So I guess I wanted to go there next, right? But we know she can do it because she's done it, right? But is there any world where there's a new type of pressure because she is definitively the best player in the world at this point?
100%. Of course. 100%. And she's talked about it. She joins Courtney Nguyen on the Champions Corner, the WTA podcast, because they have a podcast where they welcome the winner of whoever the last tournament is.
Okay.
And so you might as well just call it the Iga Swiatek
right.
show.
It's just all
like she sat out Madrid and she gave my girl Owens 1 week to step in there. But basically it's just her every single week. I mean, she's beaten everyone. She's beaten everyone convincingly, but I've heard her talk about this and she absolutely is conscious of the added pressure. And she said, even after sitting out Madrid, like going to Rome, that there was definitely some, consternation of how she was going to handle that sort of pressure of like, okay, the streak keeps stacking up. Like everyone's just thinking I'm going to roll through Rome. I'm defending the Rome title. And she did it. She basically had one close set the whole tournament. Bianca Andreescu, who's back in the mix, took her to a 7-6 set, and then Swiatek bageled her the next one. So she is very, I think, aware of what her place in history and what this would mean to get to 35 straight wins while winning the Grand Slam. It's just it's outrageous.
So let's say it this way. I believe and we didn't even say this, but on the men's side, I believe there are 4 players that can win this tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to get me to buy in on Sinner, but I believe it's the 3 that we all think it is.
I don't think he can win.
And I'm still putting Tsitsipas in that conversation. Right?
Sure. If the other 2 like beat each other up so much, maybe right. Tsitsipas. I mean, look, he was up 2 sets to none on Djokovic a year ago.
So I think there's 4 players. Right now, Swiatek is the best player by far in the women's game. How many players can win the women's tournament, though?
Well, it's kind of a trick question because like if Swiatek somehow lost for whatever reason, then the number is huge. The number is like 10, the number is 15, the number is 20. But it's kind of hard to imagine anyone beating Swiatek except for a few. Going into today, I would have maybe put the most likely person to win is Swiatek, and then so far below that, my next 2 players would have been Ons Jabeur and Simona Halep. And Simona Halep and Swiatek are playing each other if they get there in the 4th round. And so I give Halep a chance in that match. I think she's been playing better than the results say. Sure. It's her best surface. She's won here before. She got to play Swiatek a couple weeks ago, which I think is maybe an advantage actually to get that out of the way and have a feel of how she's looking. So yeah, I would give her a chance.
Okay.
She's the biggest loser in this draw though, because I think if she was in any other quarter, I would have said she might be able to get back to the finals.
All right, let's start going through it. So there, there's the first bunch, and then there's Simona Halep right below it in the top quarter. There are other players in the quarter, the Ostapenkos, the Pagulas of the world. There are, I don't. It is. I am brokenhearted. I am. You know how I feel about Palabiosa. And I do believe that this is like her first best chance at winning a Grand Slam.
So go win it. Go get to the semis.
It's just so hard. It's just so hard for me to believe that she can come through on that side. It's
2 out of 3 sets. And I know Swiatek's going to be feeling that pressure. I don't know if she'll feel it more early or late. She plays a qualifier and then either Yastremska or Risk. So that's pretty safe. Samsonova in the third round is actually a tricky matchup. She's been playing pretty well. And then you have Halep, and then potentially you have Pegula would be my pick in the quarters,
right,
who's been playing well too. So those are 3 really tough matches to get through before you would maybe for Iga. I think she got about as hard a draw as she could have possibly gotten Iga Swiatek.
Do you believe that Pala has a chance of beating Iga Swiatek though?
No, for some reason I believe someone ran. I believe Samsonova somehow has a better chance. I don't know why.
You know what? I hate saying that. I kind of have the weird similar feeling, right?
I feel like Iga knows that she dominates the rest of these top players right now. And it's gonna have to be someone random, something random. I think Halep could summon her best stuff. And Pegula, I should mention, is playing the best ball of her career, up to 11 in the world, has played quite well on clay, and is in Pliskova's half of the quarter. And that's sort of like a dead number 8 seed. She's barely won any matches in the last 6 months. She was injured, and since she's come back, it's been ugly. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Pegula there in the quarters, as she's been playing well.
Just for funsies here, I do some videos locally for my friends at FanDuel. I do some occasional things.
Okay.
And on Wednesday of this week, they asked me for a video, and I said, can I do a fun thing? They asked me for a PGA Championship video, and as you know, Greg, I am Mr. Golf. So I said, could I have some fun with it? And could I say, hey, there's one huge event? And they were like, yeah. So I led it into a French Open thing. And I said, at 14-1, I'm putting a couple of bucks on Palabiosa. The draw came out, and she went from being the 4th favorite to the 12th favorite in the draw.
That's the power of Iga. I gotta say though, I like that. It's funny. What is it that people want? Because from what I hear, when all the draws are breaking open and it's chaos in the women's tour, it's like, well, you don't know what's going on. You don't know. I thought we wanted dominance. Here we're getting it. Here it is. Yep. Ashley Barty leaves, and 100% the most dominant thing. And so I'm very intrigued to see if she can to get all the way through.
I'm struggling with the thought that she won't. I'm struggling. And again,
that is a great stat that she went to the 12th most.
I gotta double check before I want to just make sure I'm trying to, because I wanted to see that and I pulled it up, and I just want to make sure that there's not some goofy. Whenever I go to these, I always get something else first, which is like French Open if you don't consider blah 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 blah. So I want to double check on that before I confirm it. But yes, it definitely changed the moment the draw came out.
Okay, I'll just start honking while you look about this second quarter. Madison Keys has started the season so well in Australia and hasn't won practically any matches since. My guess is she's going to be the betting underdog against Kalinske in the first round. I would not expect Keys to win that match, which is disappointing. Taylor Townsend is back.
Yep.
She had a kid. She won some matches at a very lower level event, and she's using her protected ranking to play the French Open. She's got Caroline Garcia the first round, which is kind of a fun first round. And then also in this quarter is Daria Kasatkina, who I would say, other than Badosa, I would say would have the best chance to get to the semifinals out of this quarter.
By the way, it appears right now they've just frozen straight up French Open bets until they've gone through. So I can't confirm that that's how far she fell. I can't. I'm sorry. what I was looking at was something that was internal. I might have to edit this a little bit, but
yeah, please do.
I cannot confirm that that's how far she fell because they have actually frozen it.
I think your girl got a pretty tough draw. Actually,
Yes.
the first 2 rounds are very manageable. Fiona Ferro and either a qualifier, Juvan. But then after that, Kudermetova has been playing well. Rybakina. Those are all tough matches before you get to either Kasatkina or Sabalenka, who's been playing a little bit better on clay than she was early in the year. So I don't know. I feel like that's going to be tough enough for your girl to get to the semi. She hasn't played her best the last month or so. Badosa.
By the way, they just sent it to me. They did drop her to plus 1800, but they didn't drop her as far as they went from 14 to 1800, but she's still the 4th favorite.
Okay, so who are the ones above her? Owens?
It's Owens at 14. At 14 to 1 is Owens now, and Simona at 10 to 1. And
so I was right. Actually, I was.
That's how heavy of a favorite. That's how heavy a favorite Iga is.
I said after.
Right.
What did I just say? I said my 2 favorites would have been
100%.
Halep, and I think Halep would have had a better number on the other side of the draw for sure. Man, that is crazy.
But think about
Owens
how heavy
is the 3rd favorite, and she's plus 1400.
Think about how heavy of a favorite Iga is. Think about how
she's minus what?
She's minus 125, but it's starting.
Ooh,
she starts, good, but hang on, she's starting a tournament. As in less than even money.
Well, that's Nadal at
I understand
the French Open every year.
That's about it though. That's about it as far as odds.
I mean, I love Owens, and I'd love to see surprises, but I also would like to see Iga just go do this thing because I think it would be a nice moment for her and the WTA. And just you're saying this could be Alcaraz's crowning thing. I mean, This would be Iga's. Yeah, she won a French Open before, but no one had ever heard of her back then. She was ranked 50th. No one was in the crowd. This is totally different. Like Americans, for instance, will be aware of Iga Swiatek's presence if she wins her 35th straight match to win the French Open. Like it will cross over.
It's not the same as Alcaraz because Alcaraz will be winning his first, but I know exactly what you're saying. I completely understand that because
in terms of like the public consciousness, it really would be.
It would be kind of crowning her as this is now her moment. She is the player. And frankly would still transcend while this is her best surface, we've seen she's plenty capable of playing on other surfaces.
Well, right. Most of these that 28 match win streak are on hard, right? It started in Indian Wells and Miami. So
100%. All right, let's go back to the draw. I'm sorry. I got lost in trying to get the update on the Badosa thing. We go back to the draw. You mentioned it's tricky for Badosa, and I agree. And I'm nervous about it, but I still think I stand by what I said earlier. I think this is her first best chance at breaking through. I think this is set up. She has the good vibes from a year ago. She has the good vibes of having won significant tournaments and beat the best players in the world. I think that this is her first really good chance at getting through and making at least a semifinal.
Her clay court worries me a lot. Season. She lost to Bencic and Charleston in the quarters. She lost to Sabalenka in the semis of Stuttgart. Okay, you beat good players there. I'm not going to kill you for that. She lost decisively in her home tournament against Halep, and that's one of the matches that makes me think Halep could go far here. And that was kind of like a big moment. That was her moment too. Her home thing. She had a chance to go win Madrid. There's no Iga there, and she gets whitewashed, and then she comes back the next week and doesn't do anything in Rome either. So she this is about the worst form she's had probably in a minute since her rise in about 9 months.
Okay.
Or so.
All right. I'll listen to that.
That's all I'm saying. I'm a little concerned.
Okay. All right. So
also like top 8 clay players that she lost to. So that's worth pointing out.
All relevant. Owns. Let's talk about it. You've got to be just losing your mind at the moment.
Yeah, if you listen to this show and you've made it this far into the show, thank you.
Yeah,
you're a real one. But you guys will know that I'm a big Owens Jabeur fan, and I became an even bigger fan watching her from the front row with my son at Indian Wells. There's something about seeing
and yet he wasn't okay with me changing the name of the show back to Ownsley Slams. He still wouldn't let me do that, which kind of disappointed me.
She's just so damn entertaining. I really think my comp of like the female Monfils is right there. It's still there. But for her to go win Madrid and then make the finals of Rome, I think even her biggest fans, people have been following her forever, maybe weren't totally sure she had that in her. To have that kind of run where you beat that many good players and then you do it again the very next week. I mean, here are some of the people that she beat: Kasatkina, Sakkari, Pegula, Halep, Alexandrova, Bencic. And I'm throwing out some more, but she had a 10-match winning streak in there to go win a Masters 1000. Yep. That's pretty awesome. And just with such style. I mean, she breaks out drop shots at moments I've never seen a professional tennis player make them or do them. I think it's the best drop shot I've ever seen by far. By far.
I'd certainly on the women's. I mean, my God.
No, any. Okay, like,
hang on, but
she'll do it on first serve, second serve.
We're talking about Carlos Alcaraz in the same episode, though, right?
That's fair, but she's such a volume drop shotter that it's like crazy. I don't know. Her hands are just like are good, and then she got to the Rome final and she got wiped out by Iga, just like everyone else. Now, granted, she had played about 10 matches in 12 days at that point, so it was not setting up well. She saved match point a couple times in there, but to me, she's the biggest draw winner. Just to be on the other side of Iga and Badosa, but mostly Iga. And I think this quarter is manageable for her, especially the first few rounds, where I think she'll be feeling a little pressure, but she doesn't really have any tough matches probably until the fourth round.
Do you want to talk about Naomi?
Yeah, that killed me. I actually watched that part of the draw live, and I knew she was gonna get drawn against a seed, a 25-32 seed, because her name was up early, and I just looked at those possible seeds and I was just like, anyone but Anisimova, and I'm feeling okay. And give me Camilla Giorgi, please. Give me Petra Kvitova right now. I love Petra, but not happening. Like, give me anyone but Anisimova, who beat her in Australia, and that's who she got. And so I consider Naomi an underdog in the first round, which is a tough spot to be.
You made a statement to me recently about Anisimova. You said something.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It was kind of bold. That
I don't think it is, though. I don't think it's that bold.
You might be not. Okay, go ahead. I'm give it to you.
She's the next most likely American to win a Grand Slam, men's or women's, I think, if I had to pick one.
I remember thinking about it in the moment and saying to myself, okay, the struggle with that is you just never know, like, what 2-week span Sloane shows up and things break for her, and like it makes no sense, and suddenly Sloane's in another slam final somehow. Right? Like,
that's crazy. I think the other options, I mean, I guess would be Fritz, but it's kind of hard to see on the men's side.
Oh, that's the.
I think the other main option is Coco. But
I think you're talking about players that are going the other way. I'm saying that, like, we've all written off Sophia Kenin. We've just decided it's over. Like, it's never going to happen.
She might come back. I also count Osaka, sort of. I mean, she literally was an American citizen for 20 years. She lived here also. So I claim her a little bit.
I think your point is well taken, which is she is the player that is rising the most towards that point where you believe it's viable.
Well, and she's got the weapons, and I think that's the difference between her and Coco. You see it. Coco is relying on her mental toughness and guile and a lot of different things coming together. Anisimova just hits a beautiful big ball. I mean, big serve, big ground strokes. But she could also lose first round to Osaka. This is the third time they've played this year, which is a lot considering how little Naomi's played. And Naomi did get her back actually after Australia. I'm forgetting where. But that little section was kind of fun.
Was it her Miami run?
Yeah, it must have been. So that section is amazing. I wish we could sprinkle some of these players out. Here's a potential second round match: Bencic versus Andreescu. Fernandez is in this section, always box office. Naomi and Anisimova, as I mentioned, and then Maria Sakkari is in there to probably play the winner of Naomi and Anisimova in the third round. So there's a lot going on there, and like it wouldn't shock me if Andreescu is the one. Actually, she looked pretty good coming off the mat here to get through to Owens.
So Sakkari, I actually think is. I mean, I'll just go ahead and tell you, that's who I have facing Swiatek in the final.
Okay.
I think the only thing.
Anyone, that's the thing, is if you take Iga out, 15
right.
different players could win, and she'd be up there. Yeah.
And I'm not, I know she just lost to Owens. I realized that like Sakkari hasn't. Boy, how do I say this? Like
trying to be nice about this. If it was like an unlikable personality, you would be mean about it.
And that's the thing. She's not. I like Sakkari.
No, she's great. She's great.
But I've been kind of waiting again for consistency. I've been waiting for a reason to believe beyond some fleeting moments. And I don't know. I'm also struggling with Gregg, and I mean this. I'm struggling with reminding myself just how utterly insane last year's French Open women's tournament was. And
yeah, it was insane to the point of like silliness.
Yes. And
it's like why I was like, what? Zidanchek is seated 24th at this tournament. I was like, oh, she still has the finals points from a year ago. Okay.
So what I'm struggling with is, are we treating it feels like suddenly we're treating the women's tournament much more like the men's tournament, in that the players that we expect to do well are just going to do well, and that's the way it's going to go. And forgetting that's not really how this works.
No, I think beyond Iga, almost anything could happen. I happen to love Owens's draw, otherwise I would be very worried that she'd feel this pressure, because I think it's new to her of being one of the favorites. But she has such a good draw, Magda Linette, and then either Trevisan or Tart. You have Kvitova's in there. There's almost no one maybe until the quarters, and by then you're playing. But you're right. I don't like Sakkari to get very far. Her match against Owens, who was one of the worst chokes I've ever seen. I mean, it was tough. And Sakkari knew going into that match that she would become the number 2 player in the world. Yep. And she was up 6-1, 5-2.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't so much Owens. It was a little bit of Owens. She did save a match point in there. I think she saved a couple match points in that tournament, different matches, which is amazing. It was more Sakkari completely falling apart than anything.
But
it was a tough scene.
I'm not convinced that wrecks her. I'm not convinced.
No, but I've just seen her do stuff like that, like all the time. So I have a hard time. Like, I would absolutely take Anisimova or Osaka over her, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got to that point, whoever gets there is the favorite, and I would probably pick them, because I just feel like I don't know, I just trust them a little more.
Are you chalking Owens through the bottom of the straw?
Yeah, I think I'm going to, out of as weird as it is to. Yeah, I am. It is weird. I mean, she's a streaky player too, though, and so she's a little unpredictable. Absolutely.
Okay. So you've got Iga Owens in the final.
Well, we still got the bottom quarter. We should.
Oh, you're still. Did we not even? Oh God,
we haven't hit that. Another one of the big draw winners was Coco. I just wanted to get that. That's true. There. She's in this bottom quarter. Kontaveit is the high seed there. Coco's first seed that she would play is Muguruza, who's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Kontaveit hasn't really won much in the last couple of months. Like right when the top of the women's game started to settle, then some of these women started to struggle more. Badosa, Sakkari, Kontaveit. Krejcikova is returning for the first time in 3 months. She's the defending champion and the 2 seed. She's in this, but it's hard to know what you're going to get out of her.
100%.
I think Coco's got a real chance here. I actually think, I mean, you'd obviously take the field by a million, but I think she might be the slight favorite out of this entire quarter to make the semis if you were power ranking them right now.
Man,
I mean, Krejcikova, but she literally hasn't played a tennis match in 4
I
months.
know. I'm just
And then
struggling.
after that, Coco's in the best form, not in great form, but in okay form.
That's the problem, right? Like, I don't think she's in great form. Where is the confidence in Coco coming from?
Well, she has good results on clay in general. I think that's the idea, is that she's a good clay courter. Didn't do much this season, but hasn't been like terrible. And she is 15th in the world. She's 19 years old.
I know I'm not trying to, you're taking a step too far. I'm not trying to say that I don't think Coco Gauff is a good player. I'm saying, tell me what, she had a win over Angie Kerber. She's got that going for her. I don't see a result at all that makes me say that I think that Coco Gauff is ready, no matter who the opponent is, to do something of significance.
Okay, so you mentioned Carreño Busta on the men's side.
Yes.
To me, Coco, at least for now, is a little bit like a Carreño Busta or a Batista Agut. It's like you sort of have to beat her. She's like a top 20 player that her highs aren't very high, but her low, she doesn't really have lows either. Generally, the people beating her are because they're like really good players playing well. And this quarter is such a mess that I think anyone in it has to look at it as huge opportunity. And I think she is playing better than the rest of these. Muguruza had a disastrous year. Mertens has barely played. Kontaveit, I suppose. Like, Jill Teichmann might be the player with the best form in this entire quarter.
Truly.
So I'm just saying, and this is Coco's, has been a good service for her. It just wouldn't surprise me if she wins a bunch of close matches, because she's a clutch player and gets to the semis here.
I'm with you in that, like, this thing is so wide open that maybe Coco could come through. It's tough for me to say, like, I would favor her. I just don't. I haven't seen
just over anyone else.
I haven't seen anything in results. I think that's the best argument. The best argument is it's an utter crapshoot. Anybody could come through, right? Like, I think I'm okay with that argument. I just haven't seen anything results wise from Coco that says to me,
I got it. But okay, here are the people she's lost to since January.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Pagula, top 10 right now. Sakari, Halep, Swiatek, Kasakina, Halep, Sakari. And it's like that sort of,
it's a great,
I didn't even know. I didn't even, this Carreño Busta, Batista, good comparison, was so beautiful. I didn't even know. But that's what I mean. None of those players, like, I don't see any really good players in this entire thing. So I could see her actually getting through. That's it.
All right.
But yeah, I'm going Owens and Iga in the finals.
And I'm going Iga and Zachary in the finals. And we're both taking Iga, correct?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm rooting for Owens, but we'll see. I'm also rooting for Iga a little bit too. She is very likable.
She's extraordinarily
what she's doing is, I'd almost feel that now she's in a spot where you'd almost feel bad if she loses here. It would be a crushing loss for her, because this is her number one tournament, the French Open.
Yep.
And she's on this streak. She's number one in the world by far. It would be a tough early L in her career. I'd rather just see her go through and get it done.
I think she will, but then I conflate that with, but I'm also worried that I'm treating the women's side too much like the men's side, and just forgetting that's just not how this works. Like, what Ashley Barty did in Australia is not how the sport typically, we don't see it like this. Crazy things happen. And
to be fair though, winning
28 matches in a row.
Doha, Indian Wells, Miami, Stuttgart, and Rome in a row. Has literally never.
That's a great
literally
point.
Never
That's
happened.
Very good point. Yeah. All right. Very good. We will try to do these twice a week, 3 times a week, something like that.
That's a lot.
Twice a week.
My wife Emeka said, as I told her we were about to tape this, she just didn't seem happy. She said that I have to pay her for it for like.
Oh wow!
Up.
Well, what you're gonna do something nice for her, right?
I mean, like the time I'm giving up, I'm like, what else am I doing right now? Right. It's mid-May. I'm writing a couple articles. Just let me have my fun.
We'll do our best. We will have some episodes during the course of the tournament as things warrant, and hopefully some bigger.
Let us know you want them. If you got this far, let us know. And then we'll try. It is fun during the tournament. Like I think after the second round is a nice first stop.
I tend to agree with that. I am frustrated. I already looked ahead. There is some Peacock only during this tournament.
Oh no,
that drives me nuts. And I might even have a Peacock. This is the problem. I sign up for things and forget to cancel
NBC,
them.
yeah.
Right?
I do, but
yeah, it's gross. It's gross.
It'll be fun though. It'll be a fun tournament. I hope there's like one good women's side, which they're both the top halves on both draws are way better than the bottom halves. So I kind of hope that they mix those up, like put Iga on the other day of Alcaraz, basically. I mean, because that is the best men's side, and the Iga side is pretty good too. That's where you still have a lot going on there too. So split them up. French Open, please.
I agree. All right, that'll do it for this one. He's Greg. I'm Glenn. This has been Courts of Thunder.